Hello, Tower. This 681 southbound heavy, ready for liftoff. Can you hear me? Thank you, Tower. Changing to channel 2. We have successful ignition on Facebook and YouTube. And recording is in...
Recording stopped.
Recording stopped. All right. Check
Recording
afterburners.
in progress.
Prepared for... Oh my God, there's someone on the runway. Jeez, it's a guy sitting cross-legged. I mean, would you get that guy off the runway? Jeez. No, it's a group of teenagers sitting at the end of the runway. I remember doing that when I was a boy. I think it scared the pilots. Can't do that now. Hi, everybody. Dear Dharma friends. A little manic this morning. Better than depressed, I guess. Lovely to see you. Thank you for letting me into your living room, or kitchen, or tent, or wherever you are. I'm joined here by my co-pilot. Oh, he's right even beside me. This is Jim Dalton. Hello, Jim. Well, I'm glad to be here with you this morning. I'm glad you're here with me. Let me put this up. I can see a bit better. All right. I have a poem. It's always fun noticing which poem floats to the top for the moment. My iPad is dead, so I've got it on my phone. It's kind of small. It's a Rumi poem from the book, The Gathering of Poems of His Open Secret. You ready? Who says words with my mouth? Remember, this was composed in the 12th century. I once, some years ago, visited Rumi's tomb in Turkey. And in that tomb, there's a book. It's a big book. And it's opened to a page. It's very carefully hand calligraphied. And it's under glass. And there's a whole story that goes with it. I was there with my daughter, and we were putting on our little plastic booties to go in, and one of the security guards came up to us and struck up a conversation. His English was very good. And I told him that this was for me a pilgrimage, not just a tourism journey. And he said, "Oh, let me come with you." And he became our guide for the next 5 hours. And he, it turned out, was the director of security for the tomb. He's also a Sufi, and his spiritual practice began at 4 a.m. every day. Lovely, lovely man. And we got to this book, which is I can't say it's the Mathnawi. It's where Rumi's poetry was recorded as he would spout it. And it was spontaneous. And he said to me, "Take a photo." And there were these big signs, photography forbidden. And I said, "Forbidden?" He said, "No flash." So this poem comes from that book, as does all of Rumi's poetry. So here we go. I gotta try it again. No more interruptions, Robert. All right. Who says words with my mouth? All day I think about it. Then at night I say it. Where did I come from? And what am I supposed to be doing? I have no idea. My soul is from elsewhere, I'm sure of that, and I intend to end up there. This drunkenness began in some other tavern. When I get back around to that place, I'll be completely sober. Meanwhile, I'm like a bird from another continent, sitting in this aviary. The day is coming when I will fly off. But who is it now in my ear who hears my voice? Who says these words with my mouth? Who looks out with my eyes? What is the soul? I cannot stop asking. If I could taste one small sip of an answer, I could break out of this prison for drunks. I didn't come here of my own accord, and I can't leave that way. Whoever brought me here will have to take me back. This poetry. I never know what I'm going to say. I don't plan it. When I'm outside the saying of it, I get very quiet and rarely speak at all. Who says words with my mouth? When I say those words, I become very conscious of my lips. It's a very strange thing. Who says words with my mouth? All day I think about it, then at night I say it. Where did I come from? Where did I come from? And what am I supposed to be doing? I have no idea. That's a powerful line, isn't it? Where did I come from? And what am I supposed to be doing? I have no idea. My essence, my soul is from elsewhere, I'm sure of that, and I intend to end up there. This drunkenness began in some other tavern. When I get back around to that place, I'll be completely sober. Meanwhile, I'm like a bird from another continent sitting in this aviary. The day is coming when I fly off, but who is it now in my ear who hears my voice? Who says words with my mouth? Who looks out with my eyes? What is the soul? I cannot stop asking. If I could taste one small sip of an answer, I could break out of this prison for drunks. I did not come here of my own accord, and I can't leave that way. Whoever brought me here will have to take me back. This poetry. I never know what I'm going to say. I don't plan it. When I am outside the saying of it, I get very quiet and rarely speak at all. And so the pilgrims of awakening, friends on the journey, rise early, gather together, they make their way to the meditation hall. It may be in a grove in the forest, in a monastery. It can even be in a strange collectivity of a Zoom or a gathering. But we come together. We come together here now, as we have done for thousands of years. Inspired by life, assisted by the dukkha in our lives to make the effort to be together. To remember the refuge in being awake. The refuge in the way things actually are. It's not a refuge in something I will attain someday in the future or something I found in the past. Such refuges are all pointless. It's refuge in now. And refuge in the Sangha, the gathering of spirits who gather together, come together to practice. The long and beautiful lineage of people following the Buddha. But it's bigger than that even. It's this Sangha of all life, of which we are an essential and integral part. Ultimately, our practice is not a practice at all. It's just being present. But we have some very, very helpful strategies. One is mindfulness, remembering to remember. And then mindful of what? Well, why not be mindful of in-breathing and out-breathing? Of this breathing right now. Not some idea of breathing, not some image, not some fantasy. This right here now. Right here in the middle of life. Each breath has a beginning. This breath right now. It then has a rising to fullness. It has a change of direction. The chest and abdomen do. It has a decline, and then it vanishes. To carry out our exploration, we plant ourselves like trees. Just now I remember hugging a giant Douglas fir somewhere on the side of Mount Jefferson. And somehow imagining how would it be to be so rooted, to see the comings and goings of humans as tiny flashes of being. But we land here like Douglas firs or like boulders dropped by the last ice age. Put aside the impulses to move. to become really rooted. And with this stillness of body, comes a stillness of mind ultimately, so that the flickering of a thought, an incipient thought, is obvious, like a shout in a quiet room. When the wave of an emotion comes and flickers through, it's obvious. When consciousness becomes lost in some wandering mind for a while, and then there's waking up. It's undeniable what just happened. And so when we can, with great kindness, we come home to the beginning and end of each breath. Perhaps we also notice the entirety of the body, where it presses against the couch or the chair, the aliveness in the legs and hands and face. Resting here in this moment, recognizing the coming and going of the five hindrances. Converting them one by one, moment by moment, into awareness and love. Noticing the mysterious apparition of thoughts. Who thinks these thoughts? Where do they come from? Where do they go? Notice the apparition of an itch or an ache. Whose ache is it? Notice the existence, the phenomenon of awareness. Where does it come from? There's a wandering mind unfolding with no consciousness, no knowing of it. And then, suddenly, spontaneously, something knows it, that it's a wandering mind. Who does that? It's all utterly mysterious. The deeper one goes, the more mysterious it becomes. And here we sit, awake in the moment of this moment, breathing in and breathing out. This moment is just like this. There's so many ways to push and pull on the moment. I want it to be more pleasant. I want it to be less unpleasant. I want it to be like it was last week or yesterday or sometime in the past. I want it to be like that description I read in a book yesterday or 10 years ago. And it's somehow very ordinarily just like this. Maybe there's restlessness, a need to move. Maybe there's frustration. Maybe there's bliss and you wish this voice would just go away. It's like this. However it is, let us remind ourselves, I aspire to love and accept myself and the life of this moment exactly as it is. Doesn't mean I have to like it. It's a different thing to love and to like. I aspire to love and accept myself and that which I experience as this moment to the best of my ability right now. And of course, being a human being, living in time, in an utterly vulnerable body, I aspire to hold myself in sweet compassion. Compassion for the pain, for the confusion, for the doubt, for the fear, for the loneliness, for the various uncertainties. And sometimes imagination, done consciously, intentionally, can be very helpful. Please, if you're so inclined, conjure up an image of holding an infant, if that's a pleasing image for you. Or holding one of your pets. Or holding yourself. And just let yourself melt. There's nowhere to get to. There's no special experience to have. There's just this willingness to accept this is something worth loving. Maybe it's just rumpling the ear of your dog, or maybe it's standing with a rose bush that you love and taking in the delight of the scent, or maybe pruning carefully. When we remember such a thing, the same synapses fire as having that experience in the present moment, because we are having that experience in the present moment. I aspire to love and accept myself with the same delight that I hold this newborn baby. Myself with all the same promise, the same possibility. Yes. And so we practice both alone and with each other. Please let's acknowledge the with each other part of it by contacting, really being in contact with the chair and the buttocks and the back. Notice the mood of this moment. And notice the preparations necessary in the face for opening the eyes. Perhaps notice the lips and the upper lip and the nose, the cheeks, the cheekbones, the forehead. And then there's the eyes. Let your eyes move inside their beautifully lubricated orbits. They can go clockwise, counterclockwise, back and forth, up and down. And then notice the preparation for letting them open. But maybe before that, having an anticipation, a thought, an image. I'm about to see. It's probable that seeing will happen again. And then notice the what of the seeing, the who of the seeing. And it turns out there's other human beings here, making their way through a morning. The mind so easily and automatically puts people in boxes. This is this person. I had an experience with them a long time ago where they remind me of someone with whom I had this experience, and that's who they are. We don't need to look. We don't need to be receptive. But then in a heartbeat, we can be. You may even know the person. Go beyond the knowing. There's a whole universe of experience in each of these persons. Wish them well. Pick a person and secretly tell them you love them right here. Oh, that's risky, isn't it? May all beings, especially this person you're looking at, may all beings remember their true great nature. You may be going places and doing things today and meeting people. You might be seeing them from your car. Or why not remember to hold them in compassion? We can be pretty sure they are worthy of and need the compassion. Well, there are several important announcements. We should have a little music like the news. Doo-doo, 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 the news. I'm going to change the screen here and read this. I'm going to read it rather than make it up. Maggie, would you be willing to talk about the Karma Yoga Day in a minute or two? Okay. I'm going to start with this. I'm kind of excited. We're going to open PIMC. You're going to come and see what's happened over the last 2 years. What's happened in the last month and a half as Mish has gone around and tidied up so many loose ends. It's interesting how it's like, you know, when you do the dishes and it's sort of done, and then your wife, who's tidier than you, comes along and really finishes it up. It looks different. Well, Mish has gone around and painted baseboards, and the front doors are a gorgeous new color. I won't tell you that until you get to see them. They're really something. So anyway, we have COVID guidelines, and these are them, and they're attractive, I think. For the well-being of all, please attend in person only if you are fully vaccinated. And I know that's a hardship for some, but we're going to do our very best to Zoom everything. That doesn't say that. That's interesting. That meant to say that. Masks will not be required. If you do wish to wear a mask, please do. For those who are concerned about contagion, we suggest you sit at the back of the Dharma hall behind the main group, or if you want a lot greater distance, you can sit in the choir loft. We ask those not wearing masks to be very respectful of those who do and maintain at least 6 feet of social distance. And the ceiling fans will be running to keep the air moving. And in the living room, there will be 2 high-capacity air cleaners running, they'll be on full, and they'll filter the air in the room every few minutes. They're quite high volume. And this. If you or a friend use a wheelchair, you can come. And if you have hearing issues, this is a reminder, apparently many people didn't know this, we have 4 very high quality devices for the hearing impaired. And actually there's kind of a cute thing. Most people don't know this. You'd never notice it unless you were pointed out. Right behind the Buddha, the big Buddha in the front, there's a 4-foot long antenna which comes from the device right under the Buddha, which is where the signal comes to for those hearing things. So it actually is the Buddha speaking to you if you're wearing one of those devices. So Maggie, maybe let's have your sharing next, if you will.
Greetings, Sangha. So next Saturday, this coming Saturday, March 26th, is our Karma Yoga Day. I just want to thank all of those of you who have already checked back in with me about being there and bringing pails and furniture oil and vacuum cleaners. We will be starting at 9:30. There will be many varieties of pizza available for lunch, and we'll go till 2:00 or till whenever we are all completed with our task. And I just think it's very cool. And I just really want to acknowledge Mish, because every time I go there, woo, it's like amazing. And I never even see you. So looking forward to seeing those of you who have signed up, and look for another email announcement, because we are now planning for April for greeters, openers, and we'll look forward to hopefully signing you up. So I think that's it. Yeah, I think it's going to be a fabulous day, and it may be spring, and happy spring. Okay, mm-hmm. I think that's it, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. And then I have this to share. Very soon, March the 30th, in the Dharma Hall, this is before the grand opening, in the Dharma Hall, I'm offering an 8-session over 3-month class using the book Living This Life Fully, which is by Myrna Castor. And it's about this incredible man here, Anagarika Munindra, who was one of my first teachers and he was very important to me. I went to be with him in India, and it was he who came to the cult trip I was in Santa Cruz, and set me free, really. Within half an hour of his coming, I found myself with my head in his lap, and then I got to leave. So it starts Wednesday, March 30th. This will be coming. This is not published yet. Actually, I'm showing you this on the software where we create this beautiful stuff. So look for that and think about if you wanted to participate. It will be time shifted, meaning it will be recorded, and you'd be able to, if you miss one or something. And also, let me get out of here. It will also be done live to Zoom. So you can come and be in person, or you could do it online if you wished. That will also allow far-flung people to participate. This next piece won't be happening till after the grand opening. They need some organization, but I've measured the backyard, and sometime we're going to have a huge truck show up on the street in front of PIMC, and they can shoot dirt a long ways. And we're going to have between 6 and 10 cubic yards of dirt mixed specially for us. It'll be 50% loam, 30% compost, and 20% sand. And so there's a dangerous, where the concrete was poured, there's a 6 or 8 inch drop. And so we're going to raise the level of the backyard, but we're not going to we'll have to do some wheelbarrowing, but a lot of it will be just blasted into place. So that'll be fun when that happens. I invite you to come just to see that truck. I had one come to my home one time. It was really fun. Quite something. All right, then we have more. There's more. I have a text from Candle. Good morning, Robert. I'm sorry I'm unable to show up today to talk about teaching tonight. 6:30 this evening, in which I will acknowledge the full moon, spring equinox of coming out of darkness, and the 1-year anniversary of May We Gather, the Atlanta shootings of the Asian Americans. Best regards to all. So Candle will do that this evening at 6:30. The Queer Affinity Group will be happening at 6:30 this evening as well. There was more. Lots happened. We're coming back to life. It's getting to be a lot, actually. BQ and Jim Donna, blum, blum, blum. April the 3rd, the grand opening, 10 o'clock, April the 3rd. And Saturday, March the 26th, which is, oh yeah, that's right. It's competition with the Karma Yoga Day. Candle is going to be offering a retreat from 9 a.m. till 2. So that's a lot.
I thought Candle was doing the first Saturday.
Isn't that the first? Have I got it wrong?
Yes. Her retreat is on April 2nd.
Oh, I'm reading. Yes, I'm reading the wrong. This is the blurb about the Karma Yoga Day. So there we are. I stand corrected. I sit corrected. It's not in competition. It's the day before the grand opening, so you can do both. And to be responsible, dear friends. Your generosity and kind support of PIMC as a brick and mortar place is deeply appreciated. Many or most of you already make contributions. If you don't, there's a way to really feel like you're more a part of it, which is to make a financial contribution. Easy to do. Go to the website and perhaps become a monthly donor. It's important. And more on that another time, because that's plenty. Jim, have you the wherewithal to stand and move?
Still upright and breathing.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll be back.
So I'm going to move to a standing position and see if I can get my feet and my head in the same image on this screen. And if you want to join me, find a place where you can stretch out and move your arms a little bit. I don't see my feet. Okay. Change. All right. So when we practice mindful, let's see. Mindful movement, we begin with our grounding in our feet. And just setting up a rhythm of moving back and forth, and notice how the whole body works together to create that rhythm. There's give and take from left to right, some engagement of muscles, some relaxation of muscles. And we can just reach across with one arm and the other, just to start the feeling of twisting the spine gently to wake it up. It's the major channel for energy moving up and down the torso. So we wake up the spine by reaching. We can do more and tap. We can tap on the shoulder, right underneath the shoulder area and collarbone area, and then reach around and tap on the spine. So each time we make contact. Feel, just contact. And then come to stillness. Open the hands to the sky and feel the life in the hands. The life in the rib cage and lungs as you breathe. And then there's variations on all these movements. There's one set where you reach across and then lift. Feel the lifting. Feel the sustaining. And then feel the release. Reaching across with the other hand. Lifting. Sustaining. Release. And then just drop the words. It's like this. It's like this. And then coming to stillness again, turn the palms upward. Feel the life in the arms and the hand. Sink down and interlock the fingers. Come up the center. Turn the hands over and stretch overhead. Feel the sensations of just extension. Tilting over to one side. Feel the rib cage on one side open. Stretch. Come back to the center. Feel the balance. Stretch. Come back to the center. Release. Relax the arms, relax the shoulders. Letting go feels like this. Sinking, interlock the fingers, rise, push overhead, and feel symmetry. Everything is lined up equally left and right, and then we tip. Holding for a moment or two. What are the predominant sensations? Back to the center. It feels like this. Moving to the other side. Feels like this. Back to the center. Release. Soft shoulders, soft neck, soft knees. Feels like this. And then just let the two hands drift up easily, move closer to the body, drift down, so that the path of the hands is more like an oval away from the body, feeling the elbows bend, and then extending downward, lifting, sustaining, releasing. So there's an intention with every change. Intending to rise, intending sustain the movement in, and then releasing down. Coming to stillness. What are the predominant sensations? Life in the feet, life in the ankles, the muscles in the calf area. You might feel the fabric of your clothing on the skin, the lower legs, the knees. There's life in the knees, life in the long bones of the thighs and the large muscles that support our standing position. And then again, we move back and forth and notice how the whole body responds to that rhythm. Lifting our hands in front of us, imagining a ball which opens the fingers and opens the palms. Just move that imaginary ball through water with a little bit of resistance in our movement, but nothing stressful. Just imagining moving through water. So there's a sense of agency in the arms and the hands, but there's no stress. It's relaxed movement. Brings renewal and refreshment to the whole nervous system. Dropping the hands, lifting up and over, down the center. Agency, lifting, and releasing. Open hands, open shoulders, open lungs. Mood changes with large, soft movements. And one more time, we shift into resting. And notice the shift in mood. And then gratitude to everyone who joined us. Moving together creates a sense of unity and sense of harmony in the body, but it creates a sense of harmony in the heart. We all bring our hands together in front of the heart. Gratitude for another chance to practice together and to move together towards harmlessness and peace. We need this more today than ever before. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the third Saturday of April, perhaps outside in the new dirt. But we'll, depending upon the weather and everything else, we'll be moving in person in the third Saturday of April. You're all welcome to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. There. Gallery. There you are. All right. Trying to find everything that I want to have at my disposal here. That's not. Where did it go? Boom, boom, boom. This is this. Take it over here. Okay. That's good. This is not. Oops. There's this. Okay. I'm going to try to arrange this so the people on Facebook and YouTube can see the screen. I hope it works. There we go. Then I do this. Ha. Okay. A moment of show and tell. That's my garlic. In the front garden. Raised beds. Built them 2 years ago. These garlic were planted in, I think we were late. I think they were late October. And here they are. They're growing in, this is the soil that was delivered by that huge truck. They're growing in incredibly fertile soil. Every year they get, there's one bag of compost I think I share between each of these squares, 4 foot by 4 foot. So they're just well fertilized, and I water them in the summer. They're in good spot. They're in the front yard, so they get lots of sun. Our backyard would be hopeless for gardening. But we've created the conditions for garlic to emerge, and it does. I actually am giving away garlic from last year's crop because it's starting to sprout in the cupboard it stays in. So I think I'll leave that there. This is, for those of you on Facebook and YouTube, this is the voice of the talking garlic. Now, I was wondering this morning, what could I possibly share with people that could be useful? There's so many categories and thises and that's. And I thought, finally, why not talk about the 7 enlightenment factors? Please raise your hand if you've never heard of them, even, or if you couldn't name them. So, I'm raising my hand. I can name them. Well, this model, the Theravadan model, has to do with cultivating certain aspects of consciousness which are really beneficial. They result in life being quite different in a positive way. And so I want to, if I can find it, pull up a diagram, one of my familiar to many diagrams. It's on the wrong screen. I'm going to move it over here. That's not it. Grab this. That's definitely not it. All right, come on over here. Go up here. Here we go. Now come over to this screen. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to find you again. Zoomers. There we are. And what prompted me to show you the garlic in the garden was that the living world consists of ecological systems. They have rules. And for instance, if I don't water the garden in the summer, and blistering summers we're having here now, there's no garden in the fall. There's just dead dirt. If I don't keep it well fertilized, it produces little tiny things, nothing very, very edible. But if I give it all the right support, then it produces crops. In fact, our little garden, it's big by some standards, but I've had much bigger ones in the past. But it produces enough food that I make maybe 10 or 15 trips a year to there's a pantry within 2 miles of my home that I go by on my way to work. And I take like a bag of beans in, a shopping bag full of beans. And they're gone in 2 hours. I mean, there's so much hunger. But this is not a talk about that. This is a talk about the 7 factors of enlightenment. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen, this one, and go to here. Boom. All right, so what are these 7 factors? I guess I meant to preface this with something. I'm going to just do it verbally. You hear me almost every time I do a guided meditation. I talk about the 5 hindrances. There's greed, desire, wanting. There's not wanting, aversion, the mind pushing against the object. There's restlessness, agitation, and worry. There's sloth and torpor, dullness, and there's doubt. Those are our standard issue. We all have them all. And we can, according to this model and practice, we can in fact wake up to them and diminish them through the observation of them and simply the cessation of them. But what are we going to put in their place? And instead of them, we have these 7 qualities of consciousness which we can actually cultivate. And I'm not going to do this in huge depth today, but I want to just, see if I can make this bigger. There it goes. I want to speak about each of these for a minute or 3 and just make them more visible. Mindfulness, this will expand. Bhikkhus, on whatever occasion a bhikkhu, meditators, on whatever occasion a meditator abides contemplating the body as body, ardent, fully aware and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world, on that occasion unremitting mindfulness is established in them. On whatever occasion unremitting mindfulness is established in a seeker, on that occasion the mindfulness enlightenment factor is aroused in them, and they develop it, and by development it comes to fulfillment in them. Mindfulness is something we can develop. And what is it? It's the chief, whoa, that's got something in my way here. It's the key factor in our awakening, the chief of all dhammas. It allows for and arises because of constant practice, and it makes visible. It makes possible the exploration of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and not self, which is the path toward wisdom. So what is it? You know what it is. It's being here. It's being awake. It's being present. It's knowing what's happening in the body, in the feelings, in mental formations, in all the things that happen in the mind, and all the object of consciousness. Now that in itself is 6 Dharma talks, but so here it is. It's something, and the hypothesis is, and this is for you to check and see, is it true? Mindfulness is cultivable. If you were to practice mindfulness with some regularity now, would there be more a year from now? I'm living proof. Then there's a second mental capacity that we have, which is curiosity, investigation. So we can, and people do, meditate for a long time, even years or decades, and not much changes because they're not really curious. Why they're meditating is to develop concentration and get some peace and quiet and to be somewhat blissed out. But when you add in investigation or curiosity, you start noticing anicca, dukkha, and anatta. You start noticing whether you're, whoops-a-daisy, get rid of these. Go away, all of you. There. You start noticing whether you attach to the pleasant and push away against the unpleasant. And you start being able to make the decision, this is the experience I'm having right now. It's leading in this direction. Shall I follow it or shall I not? And so this curiosity, this intense interest in what's happening internally results in the ability to increase and decrease greed, hatred, and delusion. It also allows us to examine and study. Let's see what this does. I forget. The 5 aggregates. We can be curious about, I'm mindful now, I'm awake. What's happening in this body? What about its posture? What about these feelings, the pleasant, unpleasant, and indeterminate feelings? What about these perceptions? This person just walked into the room, and I noticed as the mind turned them into a this or categorized them as a that. I can be mindful of my mental formations. I'm curious about, is this mind expansive? Is this mind contracted? Is this a mind with greed? Is this a mind with generosity? And if we're curious, we can actually start noticing, not directly, but we can notice, there's consciousness here. What's happening here? There's actually consciousness. See if this takes me back. Yeah, it did. Good. So I'm going pretty fast. We have mindfulness, curiosity, and I want to do one more, and then I want to come back to you and see if there are questions. Then there's this quality of energy, enthusiasm, and determination. Whenever I see this one, I'm reminded of the second retreat I ever did. I did my 10-day retreat with Goenkaji in India, and then I did a 2-month retreat in Santa Cruz with a guy named Sujata. And I was pretty crazy. I mean, I had done no therapy, and it was very up and down, difficult time. However, sometimes I felt hopeless and unable to even practice and didn't know what the heck I was doing. And other times there was this quality of, in fact, I sent I left a note for my teacher one day, I remember very well, and it said, "Full speed ahead and damn the torpedoes." Which was silly phrasing, but in that day, I had a lot of energy and enthusiasm and determination, and I was determined I was going to learn how to meditate effectively. And so it's something we can conjure up. And with energy and determination, we discover that we can make skillful effort. We discover, yep, I can actually get to my meditation seat today and practice. Or here I am, and there's this depression that just wants to pull me down. I can actually sit up straight, and I can make some effort to notice, this is depression. Where do I feel it in the body? Where do I feel it in the head, in the mind? And this allows us to restrain unwholesome states and bring wholesome states into being. Now I want to come back to you for a minute. So that's already quite a bit. Any question or comment about mindfulness, curiosity, or energy determination?
Hi, it's James.
Hello, James.
Do you know of a good way to practice the 7 enlightenment factors?
Absolutely. Knowing, for instance, curiosity. When you come to sit, you can examine, am I here to just calm things down? Or am I here to notice what's happening? Am I here perhaps, let me check my 6 sense doors and see what's happening with seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. One of the things that I do intentionally when I'm doing the guiding of the meditation is I bring in disparate sense doors. Like, notice the mood that's present. Let's say you're in an unpleasant mood. We can cultivate curiosity. What is this unpleasant mood? How do I know it exists? What are the thoughts that go along with it? So it's a step beyond, I'm going to come to my meditation seat and just come back to my breath endlessly, which is helpful, but not as helpful as bringing some curiosity with it. Similarly, determination. There's that moment when you get up in the morning and you say, I don't want to go sit. Well, actually, I think I can, in fact, exert this capacity of determination to go and do it. Or I'm sitting here and just letting the mind wander, and maybe I can sit up a little straighter and be determined to actually be awake.
So am I doing both? Am I focused on the breath and cultivating curiosity simultaneously?
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. It actually isn't the same instant, but yes, at the same sitting, certainly.
I see.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. And the question of what am I here to do? Like, am I coming to sit? Sometimes it is to calm down, to chill, and then other times it is as a matter of practice. Like, if I practice, I will grow. So I practice. In fact, I had a really great sit a few days ago. Very, very, just.
What made it great?
Inner guidance.
What made it great?
Well, as I sit in guided meditation with you, especially, there's a leading that happens, and when I sat by myself, I thought of a timer, and I'm like, I'm not going to time anything. I'm going to sit, and I'm done when I'm done. And I experienced inner guidance, which was kind of cool. Maybe it was just remembering some of the guided meditation, but it was happening. I was experiencing the meditation with, I don't know if it was those remembrances, but I went sort of naturally, I moved through meditation. And when I came to an end of that, it was just really awesome. It was really great. I remember thinking that it was like I am progressing, a sense of progression in my ability to meditate. So it's very rewarding for me at that time.
Thank you.
That was great. That was pretty great for me.
Makes sense.
Thank you for the question.
Anybody else have a question or comment on these first 3 enlightenment factors?
I do. It's
a voice.
Jai.
It's Jai. Hi, Jai.
Hi there. With regards to the determination, can it become, I mean, for me, I could imagine it might become like a clinging, an attachment to make that happen. And so I'm wondering how to have that not happen.
I guess it's when we notice it getting tense and tight and we're clenching our teeth and I'm going to be determined, then I think we might know, I guess I'm overdoing it. In which case, paying greater attention to the mindfulness will illuminate whether that's happening or not. And we're going to come to the other enlightenment factors, which are, the first 3 of them are kind of the energizing. The last 3 are the tranquilizing and calming, among them being concentration. So let's see if the rest of the presentation answers that for you somewhat.
Thank you.
And anytime we notice that there's clutching, let go, let go, let go, of course. Thank you. Anything else? I think I forgot to say one thing that I always like to with this is that I meant it anyway. The wording goes like this. Mindfulness brings all the other wholesome mental factors into being. That's why it's the primary training. That was the Buddha's incredible discovery. That if we simply practice mindfulness, all the other enlightenment factors will develop quite spontaneously. I just had a moment of strange mindfulness. There's a pressure against my left hip, and I reached over and felt in my pocket, and I have dry eye syndrome, and I carry drops, and somehow or another, and I'm always trying to keep one with me. This morning, both of my functional dry eye drops are in one pocket. It's a moment. It's quite a moment. They came together. Maybe they'll reproduce. Anything else, or I'll go on. All right. Okay, get this so the people on Facebook can see it. All right, here we go. Do this. All right, so we have so far mindfulness, investigation, curiosity, and energy, enthusiasm, and determination. And then I like to go to the far end. There's this calming, there's this, what does this say? Equanimity. At this stage of the path, all the components of the body and mind, the five aggregates in the past, present, and future are exactly the same. There's no such thing as good, bad, or indifferent. It is simply reality, impermanent, unsatisfactory, and selfless. In this state of perfect balance, the sutta tells us, clinging to the material things of the world ceases utterly without remainder. So, equanimity. Equanimity shows up in a lot of the lists, the Buddhist lists. It's one of the jhana states. It's here as one of the 7 enlightenment factors. Equanimity is the capacity to be with what arises in the present moment without flinching, without chasing the pleasant and without pushing away the unpleasant. And if you think of we come into the world with no equanimity. If you think of babies, it's such an amazing thing. They go from tranquil and comfortable and smiling maybe, and all the way to rage and freaked out in seconds. There's no modulation of that. In fact, one of the great developments psychiatrically or psychologically around age 4 or 5 is that something that the analytic people call the repression barrier comes in. And it's possible to have emotions without acting on them. It's possible to have pleasure and pain a little bit, like kindergarten kids. But there's something that we develop in our meditation, which is the ability, and it's one of the reasons we sit still and reroute ourselves, because it's possible to have a meditative moment or period, or sometimes it's even for a period of our lives, when the experience is mostly really unpleasant. And it's not what we think of, well, I'm meditating, how come I'm not having pleasure? Well, it's because sometimes there isn't pleasure. Sometimes there's just pain and discomfort. And so the development of equanimity is the development of the capacity to be really a grown-up. Concentration. That's a familiar one. In our meditation practice, we are very specifically practicing concentration, which is the ability of the mind to stay focused on one object and stay there. And mindfulness is the other hand of the practice, in which it notices what's happening. And it may be not concentration, but also mindfulness can notice concentrated mind. And so we develop concentration by coming back again and again to our primary object. So, there's a lot here. Just think about it for a minute. And if nothing else comes out of this sharing, maybe I think this is really important. Know the difference between concentration and mindfulness. When you're sitting in meditation, and maybe just right now, take a moment to take a breath in and a breath out, and feel it and know it. Be present with that. That's momentary concentration. It's not a rarefied something that you'll never know. It's right here. The mind is focused on this breath, breathing in and breathing out. Or, let's say, focus on this sound. Concentrate on that sound. When the mind wanders, come back to that sound. In a way, nothing else exists when concentration is occurring. It's awareness and the chosen object, concentration. So in our ordinary, everyday mindfulness of breathing practice, we are strengthening mindfulness all the time. And every time we take the primary object and focus in on it and stay there, we're practicing concentration. And concentration comes and goes. We cultivate it. With concentration, we begin to see anicca, dukkha, and anatta as truths. Because it's kind of like, if we want to study something, we can use a microscope, or we could use the Hubble telescope to study solar cosmological objects, or electron microscope, because we focus in and we see what's really happening with much more stability. The same is true as we develop a mind which can be concentrated. And then here, there's something called access concentration, which one develops over time. And it's when concentration gets to the point that you don't have to be working at it anymore. Maybe you're in sitting meditation, and you're sitting here, and the mind just stays with the breath. And that gives access to insight. It becomes possible then to really notice the impermanence of things, for instance. So that's concentration. And then there's tranquility. That the mind, and this is one of the blessings, I guess, of an ongoing practice, is that we learn how to enter a state of being tranquil. Sometimes even when life is in uproar, we can practice mindfulness of breathing, and then a state like a tranquil lake, like a tranquil afternoon in the forest, that can become a state which we can inhabit much more likely at will. So we are peaceful, happy, and content, and desire and grief are gone. And we're calm and relaxed and peaceful. This is one of the fruits, one of the worldly fruits of an ongoing meditation practice, that we can actually find some tranquility in the midst of the world. And joy, there's a spontaneous joy that comes. It's not an ecstatic joy. It's not giddiness. It's just, oh, I'm sitting here, or I'm in my life, and the push-pull of liking and disliking is diminished. The hindrances are diminished or absent, and it's just, sometimes there's piti, which is kind of little ripples in the body, like what's the word? It's a bliss feeling that will come in meditation, which instead of just a moment of it, I know when I see a parent being really sweet with a child, sometimes there's a little wash through of sensation. And this, with meditation, that can become quite a common experience. So as this develops, then one is pulled toward one's meditation increasingly. You know, at the beginning, it's like, well, now I'm going to learn to meditate, and I'm going to set my alarm, and I'm going to sit for 5 minutes. And then we go a little more, and we develop and develop. But then there's something happens at some point where meditation becomes rather pleasant. And then a whole different phenomenon happens, because it's not, well, now I'm going to meditate. It's now I'm going to sit. Now I'm going to stop and enjoy actually being here, because these tranquilizing, sweet experiences are here. The equanimity, concentration, tranquility, and joy become dominant. Which doesn't mean we're not still balancing them with energy and enthusiasm and investigation. And mindfulness, of course, is just the foundation of it all. All right, I want to come back. Time is flitting. What do you think, Jai? Did any of those make sense for comforting the striving?
Yes. I don't always experience them, but they make sense.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment on tranquility, equanimity? concentration.
Robert, it's Pamela.
Hello, Pamela.
Hi there. I'm struggling a little bit with concentration and mindfulness. So, as I understand what you're saying, concentration is sort of single focus. And how is that different from mindfulness, and how can that and how can mindfulness creep? I'm struggling with that piece.
Okay. Do you sometimes have the experience of a restless, agitated, unsettled mind? You've experienced that. Okay.
Oh, yes.
How do you know when that's happening? Or put it differently, what mental factor allows you to know when that's happening?
Okay. So that's mindfulness. That's awareness of what's going on.
Precisely. Now, that's mindful of a mind that is anything but concentrated. It's restless and agitated. Then, you sometimes, I know, have a concentrated mind. Does it make sense that mindfulness can know that quality of concentration, but it's not the concentration?
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Concentration is the one-pointedness. And there's something called, I forget the Pali term, there's something called initial application. The mind is in la land, and then, oh yeah, I meant to stay with the breath. And then there's this taking the breath as an object and deciding this is it. And then there's a second application, which is sustained. My intention is to stay with this breath. And it's not, but I have an intention of doing this. And then it turns out that, seems like I stayed with the breath for half a breath. Or maybe I wind up staying with the breath for 10 breaths or 100 breaths. That's the development of concentration. Mindfulness. One analogy is that mindfulness is like the sun. It shines on everything. It's that which knows. It's a miracle. Of course, they're all miracles, actually, when you think of it. But that's the distinction. And the two are commonly spoken of as hand-washing hand. Concentration and mindfulness are the wings of awakening. They're that which allows the process to go forward.
Thank you.
And concentration is very pleasant. So you can also notice that. When concentration's there, it's like, oh, yes, this is nice.
Okay. Thank you. That was helpful.
Mm-hmm. It's a really useful distinction. Any other comment, question, concern, tranquility, equanimity? I remember an equanimity practice, oh golly, I forget his name, an American Tibetan teacher. He had us imagine something very pleasant. Then he made lots of suggestions, but something really pleasant, something that you really like to pay attention to. And then imagine something really unpleasant. And notice what happens internally with the unpleasant, like, I don't want to think about that. Or the pleasant, I do want to think about that. And then to do it to the point of coming to neutrality, coming to equanimity with it. I know many, many years ago, I had a little meditation spot. And I had a loving kindness wall on one side, pictures of my beloveds and a picture of Ruth Dennison. And on the right-hand wall, just the same distance away, I had an 8x10 photograph of Ronald Reagan and one of Caspar Weinberger. And Caspar Weinberger was the Secretary of Defense who was really agitating to use nuclear weapons. And I hated both of those people. And I realized that I had a problem because I had such hatred. And so I took upon myself I'd meditate for whatever time I was going to meditate. Then I would go to my loving kindness wall and feel all this love and, oh, there's my children. And then I would slowly turn, and then up would come this, And so I worked with those until it became possible to stay in loving kindness with the images on the right and the images on the left. And so it's something we can actually develop. Doesn't mean we wouldn't act skillfully to stop someone from doing harm, but we can weaken and diminish the spontaneously reactive, unskillful reactivities through cultivating equanimity. And the cultivation of equanimity is another reason why people who teach meditation say things like, my prayer for you is that within a few months or a year, you will have discovered that you want and need to spend at least an hour or two, maybe, in meditation every day because of how it brings balance and peace. Because it's not instant, right? This is a developmental process where we actually are developing consciousness, and secondarily to that, I guess, we're actually developing the brain to do different tricks. Among them, the 7 enlightenment factors. This is a complicated way of saying be here now. Anybody else want to say anything?
Robert, this is Penelope Likatowicz, and I'm struggling a little bit, good morning, with
Hi, Penelope. Yes.
Hi. With curiosity, and as I can see where it would be easy to go down the rabbit hole of analyzing, like we do in this culture.
Right.
I'm working hard to not do that. So can you elaborate a little bit more on curiosity, please?
Can you say a little more? How would you go down the rabbit hole? Would you be thinking a lot about it, or?
Yeah, I've been trying to analyze it as why is that? And what about this piece? And what about that piece? And, it just goes on from there. It metastasizes.
There's a great Buddhist word, my favorite Buddhist word. It's called papancha. It means mental proliferation.
Yeah, that's good.
So I would say that when you discover papancha happening, notice it as thinking and just come back to the breath. The curiosity is a much more fundamental or primitive thing. It's not thinking. It's just wondering, like, what the hell is going on? Like the beginning of that poem that I read this morning, who says these words with my mouth? Who's awake? Who's conscious here? That's the curiosity. It's not I read this in that book and this thing, and then I think. That's thinking. Is that helpful at all?
Yeah, but where does the curiosity lead? I think that's what I'm wondering about. It's like, so you ask the questions, so? So
it leads to being awake. Like, how is it? Here's one of my great curiosities. It gets bigger and bigger all the time. I'm sitting in meditation. The mind wanders. Blah, 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 blah. There's no awareness. And then suddenly, there's awareness. And it notices the mind wandering. How does that happen? It's not a thinking process. It's really being curious about how this living process is unfolding. Does that make sense that it's not a thinking process?
Yes. I still need to tussle with the fact that it's not a thinking process, but so what? So you ask the questions.
Well,
this is the Department of Redundancy department for me.
I see. That's funny. So right now, that concept will not be helpful. I would say, but notice when you're coming to, let's say you're actually coming to your meditation spot, you might ask yourself, why am I going to do this? Is it to calm the mind down? Is it to see more deeply into the mind and body? What's the purpose of my meditation today? That might make the curiosity more obvious.
Okay, that's helpful.
There's one other thought with that, is that I wouldn't say most, almost everything that is taught in the spiritual marketplace is about concentration and tranquility, or imagination, visualization. But curiosity isn't, and why is that? Well, because people want to learn how to experience some relief from the craziness of the human mind and the world. And so if we simply develop concentration, that horrible restless mind, the mind of remorse or whatever, gets subdued. And then there isn't any curiosity. There's just like, whew, I got to that peaceful, blissful spot in meditation, and I'm going to sit here for another 5 minutes, and then I've done my thing for today. That doesn't have any curiosity involved in it. The curiosity would come from, it's like, that's interesting. What is it about the state that I'm in now that is so unpleasant? What I want to do is go numb. And that's, again, not a thinking process. It would be noticing that. Mish, were you waving? Hey.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, I was thinking I'd share what comes up for me with this. I don't think of it as question asking. It's not, to me, an action type thing. It's more of almost a mood, an intention, a feeling of openness, with I enter a space. This is how I enter sharing space with people too, often, especially if that might be challenging emotionally or something. And this is how I enter meditation and the teaching. So it's not so much to do as a mind state.
Mm-hmm. An attitude of curiosity. Yeah. Well, anything else? I have to go momentarily.
Hey, Robert.
I hear a voice.
Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi. I'm curious to know, I've recently, when I'm sitting, I become aware of my body holding itself together, tension.
Uh-huh.
And I notice it, and then I can consciously relax those muscles. And then as time goes by, I notice that it's there again. It's just like I'm holding myself together.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I go with that?
I think you're already there. To notice where it is unconsciously holding tight, mm-hmm. and the places where you can relinquish that holding tight, you just soften. And you will find some places where you can't release the holding tight. It's just tight. In which case, then you would observe the liking or disliking, probably disliking, and move toward equanimity, acceptance. That's how it is. Mm-hmm. You know, on my very first retreat with Goenka, I discovered a pressure in my forehead, quite a substantial pressure. And it really bothered me. It was like, what is this? And what is this? And then for years, and I went to a workshop with a psychic, and she said, oh, that's your psychic energy, that, you know, if you pay attention to that, your third eye will open. And I tried, and it's still there. It's 50 years later. It's just a pressure in my forehead. Sometimes the pressure in the forehead is just a pressure in the forehead. Sometimes the tension, and it can be an unpleasant tension, is just an unpleasant tension. And so what?
Thanks.
Thank you. Is it spring on Quadra?
Well, yes, we had a day of sunshine yesterday, but we're back to kind of dim and gloom. But there are buds out there. People have daffodils blooming. So,
Great.
yeah, it's kind of springy in a gray sort of way.
All right. Well, is anybody sitting on anything that feels urgent that you really want to share? Please do, if you do. Well, thank you for coming this morning. Thank you for making this a community practice. I am very grateful for being placed in this role and being able to do what I can to bring the Dharma to life. And as I remember to say on retreats and mostly forget here, if I have done or said anything which has been hurtful or harmful to you, please let me know. Because I can do that. I have a shadow. I'm a human being. And may these teachings be of benefit to you and me and all beings. So let us sing our way home. May all beings receive all blessings. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Bhavatu Sabe Mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Wow, that was kind of nice. So, sadhu. Goodbye, all. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Namaste, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Bye-bye, Sangha.
Bye-bye.
So long.
Farewell.
Wonder what that means.
What?